Hey guys, it's Brenden Nel here. What can you say? Italy. What can we say? Really, I mean, let's be honest, the Springbok team should never lose to Italy. Things aren't going well in the Springbok camp. We're down in the dumps. There is no excuses. And I'm sorry, the Bok coach, and they need to shoulder some blame for this one. Players as well. Everybody needs to shoulder some blame. We're down in the dumps. We're at the lowest point. This is rock bottom, guys. We don't get lower than this. Well, let's hope not to. Anyway, saying that, this is what this video is called. 5 ways to save the Springbok team. Number 1, put the Springboks first. We all know in South Africa we don't put the Springboks first, like the All Blacks put their teams first. You know, unions work against Springboks, individuals work against the Springboks, you know. And it's not always the Springboks that come first in this country. I think that's the first thing we need to do. And we need to have a commitment across the board from every union out there, every player, every administrator, to put the Springboks first. Number 2, succession policy. Let's be honest, guys. I mean, we don't have a succession policy for coaches in this country. If I ask you now who's the next Springbok coach, you would know. If I ask you who's the next All Black coach, it would be one of Ian Foster or Wayne Smith or one of the assistants, or maybe the next Super Rugby coach, Dave Rennie, or somebody like that. There would be at least 5 candidates. If you ask South Africans, some would say Johan Ackerman, so others would say Rassie Erasmus, both great candidates. There'll be a Jake White group out there, but I mean, to be honest, we don't have a succession plan in South African rugby. We don't have an under-20 coach at the moment since Dawie Theron's left. Surely that should be the next guy in the stepping stone going upwards. And while we don't have these things, we can't move forward as a country. Now, I know there's been some great work done at junior levels. The structures at junior levels are exceptionally well in tracking players and helping coaches, empowering coaches. But then at senior level, everybody does their own thing. We need to get to a point where we all know where we're heading in senior rugby in South Africa. Who are the next coaches that are coming through? Who are the young guys who are earmarked for the future? Is there such a plan? If there is, please tell me. I'd be great to share it with people, but I don't see one at the moment, and I haven't seen one in the 20 years I've been doing this. Number 3, skills development. Let's be honest, we're not a country who likes skills development. We're not a country that likes to develop player skills. We see it at Biliki rugby, at the junior rugby levels. If you've got a big player, we let them run over the other ones. I'm not saying weight-based rugby as in New Zealand is the right thing, but we need to empower players with skills. We still have Springbok players who can't pass right. We have players who don't know basic skills. And to be very honest, our basic skills rate at the Boks, you just have to look at how many knock-ons there are, how many errors. The error rate is shocking at the Boks at the moment. And so that's something we need to employ. And that's not something you employ at Springbok level. You can't expect the Springbok coach to do that. You need to do that at the lower level. So that must start everywhere at the lower down. And any Springbok coach will tell you that, any national coach, any normal coach will tell you that. Number 4, gain control of the Springboks again. We had the strangest situation now in England where we had one team playing the Barbarians and then 10 and 11 guys coming back from their overseas clubs to play for the Springboks. Let's be honest now, guys. That can't happen. How is a Springbok coach going to plan? You look at the contrast to Eddie Jones. He's had 3 camps this year. He had a 2-week camp in Portugal to just prepare for the Springbok game. Alistair Coetzee got 4 sessions on his own. And I'm not absolving Alistair of any of the blame of the current crisis. What I'm saying is it makes it so much more difficult for a Springbok coach when you don't have control of your own players. When you don't have control of their fitness regimes, their conditioning. Guys have on different seasons in different parts of the world, and they come back here and they're in different conditioning states. And that doesn't help a Bok coach, because there's always something, you don't have control of your guys. If all the Springboks were in South Africa, and we're talking in an ideal world now, how we're going to do this, central contracting may not work, but we need to find a way of doing this. And in my 5th point, I'll tell you how I believe we should do it. But we need to find a way of doing this. And in doing this, then the Springbok coach and his conditioning team will have control of these Springbok. The Springbok coaching team will know how many games players play, where they can play, and do right by them. And we get the best out of our Springboks. That's an ideal world. I know it's a professional era and players will still go choose to play overseas, but at least then, the players that stay and play for the Springboks, we know want to play for the Springboks. We know they want to play for their country, because there's a question mark about that at times as well. And I'm not singling out players. I know they all do their best. But when you have the demands that some of them have of playing 12 months a year, playing in Japan, playing in Europe, playing in other places, different demands, clubs saying to them the whole time they mustn't play international rugby. then you sit with a situation where you've got to ask yourself, who the guy who pays you 5 million a year or 10 million a year, is he your boss or is your country your boss when you're living overseas half the time? And I think that debate shouldn't even happen. I think we should have a situation where we have a contracted squad and we play with those squads. Finally, number five, and this is the tough one, cull the number of unions in this country. We've got over 500 players, professional players in this country, and we can't support that. We've seen this at Super Rugby level, and we've got another 350 playing overseas. It's 850 professional players in South Africa. Really, the system, everyone I speak to, all the financial gurus, all the union presidents, everybody say that our system can really only take about 300 maximum. And that's what we should be looking at, rather quality, not quantity. There are unions there that get 24 million a year from SARU, 20 to 24 million, depending on what allotment they get. If you take that 5 unions away and you take that money and you plow it back into the system, you contract, so 5 unions times 24 million is 120 million. I've written about this before in my Supersport columns. So you take that 120 million and you plow it back into the unions. You can contract the 6 top Super Rugby coaches, their management teams, and another 20 odd players. Each union, Super Rugby union, with another 15 odd million to contract players. And they can keep South African players in South Africa. Plus, we don't have the same thing in the Currie Cup every year, which you have 6 teams, 9 teams, 10 teams. We have this debate every year until the start of the Currie Cup competition. We'll have 8 or 9 teams that stay in it, professional unions, and we can go forward like that. Those are my 5 ways to save Springbok rugby. They're not everything. I know we don't cover everything in them. I know there's a lot more that can be done, and probably a lot of points that I haven't touched on. And I know it's not as easy as it sounds. It requires will, it requires patience, and it's going to be pain in terms of change as well. But these are the things that I think can save South African rugby. I'd love to know what you think. Leave your comment below. Let me know. Leave your comment on Twitter or wherever, and I'll answer you wherever I can. It's not an easy thing, guys, but somehow we need to get the will to do it right, and we need to do it the right way. If you want to have more of these videos, press the subscribe button, which will either be underneath or on the screen right now, and you can see more of these videos whenever they come up. Cheers.